Mark Bennett had built his life around the road. For 15 years, the rumble of an engine and the expanse of asphalt stretching endlessly ahead were all he needed. His rig, a red Peterbilt 579, was more than a truck. It was his home, his livelihood, and his fortress. Mark had driven through blizzards in the Rockies, scorching deserts in Arizona, and the humid highways of the Deep South. He thought he'd seen it all. Until that night on Route 66. It was supposed to be an ordinary haul, a refrigerated trailer packed with premium steaks bound for a swanky Las Vegas restaurant. The cargo was worth tens of thousands of dollars, but Mark didn't worry. He was good at his job, reliable, on time, and professional. He'd driven Route 66 countless times and could navigate it blindfolded. But tonight, something felt off. The desert was unnervingly quiet. Normally, the night carried faint sounds, the rustle of wind, the distant howl of a coyote, or the occasional crackle of gravel beneath an animal's feet. Tonight, there was nothing. The stars seemed dimmer than usual, their light muted by an oppressive darkness. Even his CB radio, his lifeline to other truckers, offered only static. "Big Red here," Mark said, pressing the transmit button. His voice sounded hollow in the stillness of the cab. "Anyone out there tonight?" "Over." The radio hissed back at him. Mark frowned and turned the dial, scanning for a signal. He leaned closer to the receiver. "This is Big Red, Route 66 eastbound, looking for some chatter. Anybody out there? Over." Nothing. Just the same relentless static. Mark sighed and set the radio aside. He grabbed his thermos from the cup holder and took a long swig of coffee, wincing at the bitterness. The dashboard clock read 2:37 a.m., still hours to go before Vegas. "Guess it's just you and me, girl," he muttered, patting the dashboard. The engine's steady hum was comforting, a reminder of the truck's reliability. He leaned back in his seat and let the rhythm of the road lull him into a steady calm. But as he rounded a gentle curve, something caught his eye. A flash of light. It was faint at first, like distant lightning, but the sky was clear. Mark squinted, his eyes narrowing as the light grew brighter, more intense. It wasn't natural. The beam shot down from the heavens, a blinding white column that struck the highway ahead. It illuminated the desert like a second sun, turning night into day. "Holy!" Mark slammed on the brakes. The truck screeched to a halt, its tires skidding on the asphalt. He threw his arm up to shield his eyes from the blinding glow. His heart pounded, his pulse racing as adrenaline surged through his veins. And then, as abruptly as it had appeared, the light vanished. Darkness swallowed the desert once more. Mark sat frozen in the cab, gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles ached. The engine idled softly, its familiar rumble grounding him. Slowly, he lowered his arm and blinked, his eyes adjusting to the gloom. He could feel the blood pounding in his temples, each beat a reminder that he was alive. "What the hell was that?" he muttered, his voice shaky. He reached for his flashlight, his hand trembling as he unlatched the door. The cool desert air rushed in, carrying an unsettling stillness. Mark climbed down from the cab and shined the flashlight toward the trailer hitch. The trailer was gone. Mark blinked, certain he was imagining things. He took a cautious step forward, the flashlight beam revealing the empty space where the 40-foot refrigerated unit had been. The hitch was still locked, the connections dangling as if the trailer had been neatly unhooked and removed. No way," Mark whispered. He crouched down, examining the ground. There were no skid marks, no drag lines, no debris, nothing. The trailer hadn't been stolen. It had simply vanished. Mark's chest tightened as panic set in. He straightened and grabbed his radio. "This is Big Red. I need help. My trailer. It's gone. Anyone out there?" Over. The static hissed, mockingly in response. "God damn it." Mark slammed the radio onto the seat and ran a hand through his hair. He turned in a slow circle, the flashlight sweeping over the empty desert. It was as if the world had been wiped clean. That's when he heard it. A low hum, faint and distant at first, but growing steadily louder. It wasn't the sound of an engine or machinery. It was something deeper, more resonant, vibrating through his chest, like the thrum of a massive tuning fork. Mark turned toward the sky and froze. A massive triangular craft hovered above him, its edges shimmering like a mirage. It was so large it blotted out the stars, its surface smooth and black as obsidian. 3 red lights pulsed at its corners, casting an eerie glow over the desert. The craft was silent, save for the hum that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. No way, Mark stammered, his voice barely audible. His legs felt like lead as he stumbled backward. The flashlight fell from his hand, clattering to the ground. He could see movement within the craft, shadowy figures, tall and humanoid, with elongated limbs and blank, featureless faces. "This isn't real," he muttered, shaking his head. "This isn't real." The hum grew louder, pressing against his skull. Mark turned and bolted for the cab, slamming the door shut behind him. His hands fumbled with the ignition, and the Peterbilt roared to life. He jammed the accelerator, the tires spinning as the truck surged forward. The craft followed. It glided effortlessly above the highway, its red lights illuminating the path. The hum was deafening now, drowning out the roar of the engine. The CB radio crackled to life, emitting strange static. Then within the static, he heard it. Mark Bennett." "No," he shouted, gripping the wheel. "Leave me alone." The whispers grew louder, more insistent. The red lights pulsed in time with his pounding heart. Mark's breath came in ragged gasps as he pushed the truck to its limits. The speedometer needle climbed higher, but it didn't matter. The craft stayed with him. "Why me?" he screamed. "What do you want?" The only response was the hum, now so loud it felt like it would shatter him. The truck's dashboard lights flickered, and the engine sputtered. Mark screamed as the Peterbilt coasted to a stop. The craft descended, its red lights bathing the cab. Mark could see the figures clearly now. Tall, slender beings with smooth, pale skin and expressionless faces. They stared at him, their presence both terrifying and hypnotic. The white light returned, engulfing the truck. Mark felt weightless, as if he were being lifted into the air. He opened his mouth to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the light. Mark woke to the soft hum of the engine. The sun was rising, casting golden light over the desert. For a moment, he thought it had all been a dream. Then he looked in the rearview mirror. The trailer was gone. Mark grabbed the CB radio with trembling hands. "Dispatch, this is Big Red, my trailer. It's gone." "What do you mean gone?" came the dispatcher's reply. "Did someone steal it?" "No," Mark whispered. "It's just not here." The police investigation turned up nothing. The highway cameras showed Mark's truck cruising down the road, but at one point, the trailer simply disappeared. The GPS tracker's final ping came from a remote area deep in the Nevada desert, but the search yielded no signs of the trailer or cargo. Mark quit trucking the next day. He sold his Peterbilt and moved back to his hometown, hoping to leave the nightmare behind. But the memory lingered. On quiet nights, as he sat on his porch, staring at the stars, he thought he saw faint red lights blinking in the distance. Sometimes the whispers returned, faint but unmistakable. Mark Bennett. And no matter how far he ran, he couldn't shake the feeling that a part of him had never left that highway.